I'm Karima, and today I'm going to be talking about a little gaming. So, there are two things that I love, basketball and Michael Jackson. I've been playing 2K a lot lately, NBA 2K a lot lately, mainly NBA 2K21 next gen, of course. And I think it would be a good idea to put Michael Jackson, the one and only King of Pop, into NBA 2K as a playable character. And in this video, I am going to explain why. I also think that it would be a good idea for 2K to put a music t-shirt / fashion store in NBA 2K. Lastly, I also think that it would be a good idea to put Michael Jackson's music or put a Michael Jackson playlist on 2K Beats. And I think it would be a good idea to just incorporate more of Michael Jackson, the King of Pop, into NBA 2K, the video game, as a playable character through the music t-shirt store, and also of course, putting his music on 2K Beats as a playlist, in which, 2K is a video game which is heavily focused on music, fashion, and, of course, popular culture. Of course, for all my 2K players out there, for all my 2K lovers, you know that NBA 2K is a very popular video game. And one of the main reasons why that is because of their cover athletes. Of course, for all my 2K lovers out there, you know that Allen Iverson, the great Allen Iverson, who was my favorite basketball player of all time, he was on the very first cover of NBA 2K. And then, of course, after that, there have been a number of basketball players, past and present, who have graced the cover of the 2K franchise, which makes it an overall cool and fun and interactive popular video game over the years. Some of my favorite covers include, even rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant graced the cover of NBA 2K17, the Legend edition of 2K17. There was also LeBron James on the cover of 2K19. And before that, Shaquille O'Neal, Shaq graced the cover of NBA 2K18. The Legend Edition. And of course, that being said, 2K has done a really great job of doing this cover athlete thing that they do every year between the Standard Edition of their video game and the Legend Edition of their video game. So 2K, they do this thing where they have the athletes past and present who grace the present athletes grace the Standard Edition cover of 2K, and then they have the Legend, the Hall of Fame basketball players grace the Legend Edition of NBA 2K, and they've done a great job of that through their cover athlete process. So that whole process of the cover athlete has made 2K an extremely fun and cool and popular video game, a very interactive video game. So with that being said, I think that 2K should continue this thing of making 2K this video game where they intertwine many different aspects of many different things. I think one reason, now this goes back to what I was saying in the introduction, I think that it would be a good idea to, first of all, put a music t-shirt / fashion store in NBA 2K, the video game. A music t-shirt would fit right into their idea of, intertwining music and fashion and popular culture. While playing NBA 2K21 Next Gen this year especially, I was paying attention to the fashion in the city on 2K this year. And one of my favorite aspects of the city this year, especially in terms of the fashion and the clothing, one of my favorite things to wear, by the way, was just, it was the NBA Classic / Historic t-shirts. Of course, this year in NBA 2K21 Next Gen, they have in the park, this year it's called the city, of course. So in the city, you have these characters, the objective characters. So one of the characters that I like, one of my special things that I liked this year was the objective character that sold NBA Classic Historic t-shirts. And I put my player, for one, because I am from Milwaukee, so go Bucks go. So I put my player, at any rate, I put my player in a Bucks Classic t-shirt. And that was one of my favorite aspects. Shout out to my player, by the way, in NBA 2K. So I put my player in a Bucks Classic t-shirt. So that was one of my favorite things. And so with that being said, I think it would be a good idea to put a music t-shirt store in NBA 2K. And what I mean by music t-shirt is basically, those t-shirts, with all the famous musicians on them, which are extremely popular, especially in today's culture. I'm talking about those t-shirts with Aaliyah on them, Left Eye, Tupac and Biggie, Bob Dylan, Johnny Cash, the Beatles, Let It Be, those t-shirts. Those type of t-shirts. So I mean music t-shirts, Bob Marley, Jimi Hendrix. So those type of music t-shirts, I think, and I'm saying music t-shirts specifically because 2K is also heavily focused on music through their 2K beats every year. Every year when 2K comes out, they drop the NBA 2K playlist, the soundtrack to NBA 2K. So music is an extremely important part of NBA 2K, the video game, and so is fashion. So I think it would be a good idea to put a music t-shirt store in NBA 2K. Now, imagine walking into one of the many fashion stores and being able to buy a t-shirt with some of your favorite, most iconic musicians on the cover of your t-shirt. Anywhere, of course, from Bob Marley to Jimi Hendrix to Prince to Madonna to Whitney Houston, Outkast, Mariah Carey, and of course, none other than the king of pop, Michael Jackson. I think it would be a really good idea to be able to walk into a store and buy music t-shirts. It would uplift the entire culture of 2K as a video game. It would certainly uplift the fashion in the city, in the park on NBA 2K. So I think it would be a good idea to be able to walk into a t-shirt store on NBA 2K. And I mean, you could put it right in between, the Nike store and the Jordan store in the park area in the city. On 2K, or you can put it between the NBA store and in between Swags, or it can go inside of Swags. So I think at any rate, it would just be a good idea. It would be a really good, cool, fun, and interactive idea to put a music t-shirt store in NBA 2K. And of course, even in real life, the NBA, and which is what I was saying at first, the NBA and fashion, work hand in hand together. Fashion is a huge deal in the NBA. When the NBA players, before they play a game, they always do the famous tunnel walk where they show off, the best and the best of the best in the fashion of whatever the NBA players are wearing that day. So fashion is a huge part of the NBA. And more specifically, even music t-shirts, especially as I was saying in today's culture, the music t-shirts are becoming a more popular thing as you go day to day. Each day that day goes by, they're the music t-shirts, especially pop culture, those pop culture t-shirts are becoming a huge deal. And the NBA players specifically love to wear those t-shirts. And even in general, just music t-shirts is just a huge part of popular culture in general. And as I was saying, that even brings me to a conversation about branding. 2K does a really good job of incorporating, fashion into their video game. There are a ton of different brands in NBA 2K, the video game, from Just Don to Slam Magazine. Of course, they have the Marathon clothing store, which they incorporated this year, in tribute to Nipsey Hussle. They have Herschel Supply Co. You can buy it. So, and of course, this year even they also had the Space Jam, a new legacy clothing line that they had, which is of course in commemoration of the new Space Jam, a new legacy movie that came out with starring LeBron James. Space Jam is the sequel of the classic Space Jam movie starring, of course, the greatest basketball player to ever live, Michael Jordan. So I really enjoyed that aspect of 2K this year also. In a music t-shirt, it would be like wearing any other shirt in the park, in the city. Of course, this year it's called the city. So it would be like wearing any other t-shirt, It would be like wearing the Slam Online t-shirt. It would be like wearing the Just Don shorts. Because as I was saying, it would just having a music t-shirt store would uplift the entire culture of the city and the fashion in the city, which I think fans would have, fans of 2K and of course, my players all over the world, 2K players all over the world would have a lot of fun with. I think they would have a lot of fun with especially being able to walk into a music T-shirt store and buying a T-shirt with, with let's say Michael Jackson on the cover of the T-shirt. So I think a lot of people would have a lot of fun with that. And this also brings me into a more serious conversation about Michael Jackson and fashion specifically as it pertains to Michael Jackson. I mean, imagine being able to walk into a store now in 2K and NBA 2K and not just buying a music T-shirt, but being able to wear Michael Jackson's iconic Thriller jacket, which was from his iconic music video Thriller. I also think it would be, or even the varsity jacket that he was wearing in the Thriller music video. I think it would be a good idea to wear the beaded jacket, the iconic red jacket with the glitter on top of the shoulder there. I think it would be a really cool and huge deal for people to be able to walk into a store and incorporate, that level of fashion into the park area on NBA 2K. Imagine walking into a store and being able to wear Michael Jackson's glitter glove, being able to wear the glitter socks, the glove, the socks. Referring to the socks that he first premiered in his iconic Rock With You video during his Off the Wall era. So I think it would be a really good idea just to be able to incorporate, again, that level of fashion. And of course, Michael Jackson, in terms of fashion, in terms of his style, the inspiration in that is something that, of course, transcends cultures and moves over into the basketball world, especially in the way that 2K incorporates fashion and music. So I think it would be a really, really good idea to incorporate a music T-shirt store for one, but also a store where you can just, where you incorporate more, more musical aspects into NBA 2K, which 2K has already done in a really great and respectful and interactive way. Excuse me. I think that, and this brings me to my point about, this brings me to my next point. Of course, there is the animation store on NBA 2K, which to me is the greatest store of them all. That is where you go. The animation store is where you go to buy, pre-game celebrations and post-game celebrations and even in-game celebrations. It's the store where you can, purchase, of course, via your virtual currency. You can purchase, dance moves and different celebrations that you can do. After you hit a three, after you hit a jump shot, after you dunk the ball, you can purchase those in-game celebrations, also celebrations and dances that you do pre-game and post-game. And of course, for anyone who plays 2K, you'll know that they have a lot of celebrations which honor the Michael Jackson in NBA 2K. They honor the King of Pop. They have a dance package, of course, called the King Dance Package, or at least that's one of the dance packages. So it's basically a pre-game and post-game celebration where, for example, when you go into the animation store and if you go down to, signature celebrations, pre-game celebrations, post-game celebrations, in the park celebrations, and in-game celebrations, if you click on those buttons and you scroll down to, you'll see King. You'll see a celebration called the King. And it's basically, they have this celebration where you're basically even, you're doing the moonwalk. So you're able to moonwalk on NBA 2K. And of course, I think that's it's just such a unique thing to have on 2K, the video game. So you can do the moonwalk, you can do the floor glide, of course. There's also a package where he's doing, the dance, which is one of my favorite ones. He's doing the dance from, your player can do the dance from the Rock With You, from Michael Jackson's iconic Rock With You video, where he's swinging his feet, kicking his feet out like an octopus. So that's one of my favorite dances that's in 2K, the video game. There's also the dance where, from Smooth Criminal, the guy is doing the gravity lean that Michael Jackson does in his iconic Smooth Criminal music video. So I think that is a really cool thing to be able to get those animations. And of course, for all my 2K players out there, you go search for those celebrations and those animations. They also have the iconic Thriller dance on NBA 2K. It's called the Zombie Dance. And of course, there are other ones, called the Soda Dance. And of course, in commemoration of the King of Pop, that's why it's called Soda. They're saying, they're talking about Soda Pop. So they're talking about the King of Pop, so get it, soda pop, how you call soda pop. So that's why it's called soda, by the way. So that's just a side note, by the way. But At any rate, there are just a ton of different dances basically in NBA 2K, is what I'm saying, that honor Michael Jackson. And I think that's just an extremely huge and important and big deal. And that is just that has been just one way in which 2K has really shown, their love and appreciation for such a musician and a pop culture icon like Michael Jackson. And I think that they should continue to do that in terms of, incorporating more of Michael Jackson's style into the video game. So I think it would be a good idea to put Michael Jackson in NBA 2K, and that, as a playable character. I think it would be a good idea to put a music T-shirt store inside of NBA 2K, the video game, and I think it would also be a good idea to put Michael Jackson's music on 2K Beats at some point in 2K's making of their video game. And now that brings me, of course, to my whole idea of how this could come about. I mean, I really think, aside from it just being an idea, I think there's really a fruitful and a really easy way to incorporate Michael Jackson in the video game as a playable character. Of course, eventually, or leading up eventually to him being a playable character in NBA 2K. So basically what I am saying is that, 2K needs to put Michael Jackson in NBA 2K. Michael Jackson should be in NBA 2K, the video game. And as I was saying, there are steps and there are ways in order to do this. Of course, 2K and Visual Concepts can, at some point, they would have to sit down and decide how to create Michael Jackson's likeness for the video game, of course. But I mean, I think it would be a really interesting and fun and interactive idea that would uplift the entire culture of the video game of NBA 2K. And again, I said there are easy ways to do this. To me now, firstly, I think a really cool way to do it would be, via the music T-shirt idea. They would be a really cool idea, as I said, to walk into a store and to, at the very least, be able to buy a T-shirt with Michael Jackson on the T-shirt, and to walk around the city, with Michael Jackson's glove on your hand, or the glitter socks, or the red jacket, the Thriller jacket, the varsity jacket, even his socks, the white socks, the pants, the slacks, the loafers. So I think it would be a really good idea at some point to be able to walk around the city, as Michael Jackson, and even play against Michael Jackson in the city at some point on NBA 2K. So I think it would be a really good idea to do that. I also think another way to incorporate that, I was talking about the music T-shirt store earlier. I want to talk a little bit about putting Michael Jackson's music on 2K Beats as a playlist. I think, what better way to honor such an artist as Michael Jackson than to, put his music on 2K Beats. Of course, they have, the dance packages in the animation store, which is really good and which is great. It's a really awesome and it's a fun idea. To me, it's honestly one of my favorite aspects of playing some of the city games, the post-game and pre-game celebrations, and then to incorporate the idea of dance and music. Of course, for all the 2K players, when you get ready to play a park game, or a city game in the city there, when you step on the spot, there's music non-stop in 2K. There's music before you play, before the game starts. There's music playing while the game is being played. There's music playing after the game ends. So there's just, I can't think of a time, honestly, I can't think of one time where music is not playing in NBA 2K, the video game, whether in the main menu area there, but especially in the city. So when you play online against the other My players. So I think it would be a really good idea now. And speaking of something more concrete, if 2K wanted to, begin to honor Michael Jackson in that aspect, I think it would be a really good idea to just simply put his music playlist on 2K Beats. And of course, as I was saying, as I mentioned earlier, 2K is known for their soundtrack. When they first, when 2K first comes out in September, a couple of days ahead, they always drop that 2K soundtrack that everyone loves. So 2K does come with this famous soundtrack. So I think that it would be a good idea, of course it's a soundtrack that's dedicated to more up-and-coming, and up-and-coming artists and indie artists. So I think at some point, even in regard even to that aspect, the inspiration of Michael Jackson in terms of the music industry and other artists, I think it would be a cool idea to put his music at the very top of 2K beats at some point in the future in NBA 2K. And I think also, just even a little bit back in terms of the gaming, when you play the park games in the city, I mean, now back to 2K beats in terms of that, I mean, every other song there's always, a Michael Jackson reference, a Billie Jean reference, so when you get ready to play those park games, just hearing those Michael Jackson references in those songs, and of course, in a lot of people's songs, Michael Jackson continues to be a huge inspiration to young and old artists alike. So I think Michael Jackson putting his music at the top of your playlist, as either, you could put, one song on there, it could be by Billie Jean, Rock With You, it could be the entirety of an album, but I think it would be just, in general, be a good idea to put his music on 2K beats at some point. And even having an honorary playlist where you put, a Michael Jackson, have an entire Michael Jackson playlist on 2K at some point on 2K beats would again even uplift the entirety of the video game. Same thing with the music T-shirt store. I mean, imagine getting ready to play one of your park games. You're sitting at home and you turn on 2K, and even when you turn on the video game in the main menu, I mean, hearing a Michael Jackson song would just uplift the entirety of the video game, just the entire experience. And even for me personally, I mean, I know I enjoy all the music that's on 2K already anyway, but I mean, especially I think it would be a really good idea to be able to play a park game and then hear, Beat It, for example. It would be a really good and clean, fresh, and cool thing to do, and an inspirational thing to do, to hear, some of Michael Jackson's more of his, inspirational songs like Black or White and Heal the World and Stranger in Moscow and Earth Song, songs like that. So it would just be a good idea. And of course, all of his popular hits like Rock With You and Billie Jean and Wanna Be Starting Something and Mad and Smooth Criminal, Thriller. So I think it would be a really good idea to put Michael Jackson's music on 2K beats. And with that being said, I mean, again, it would just be a really cool idea to, one of those days when you're playing those park games, you can even, of course, now dating back to the Jackson 5, it would be a really good idea to, be playing a park game and hear, ABC by the Jackson 5, or I Want You Back, or, Stop to Love You Safe. So, I mean, those are just some of the ideas that I think 2K should consider at some point, and which eventually should lead up to, maybe and perhaps even incorporating Michael Jackson as a playable character in 2K, the video game. And now that brings me to, the idea of incorporating, of eventually bringing Michael Jackson on as a playable character in NBA 2K as a playable character. I think it would be, you can even incorporate Michael Jackson in all of his different eras in the video game as a playable character. Like for example, the Off the Wall era MJ. I mean, of course, you can draw from the iconic Rock With You video, where he's wearing the of course, the disco inspired, disco ball inspired glitter outfit and the lights in the video. I mean, I think it would be a really cool idea to be able to have Michael Jackson and create his likeness even in the video game and have him as a character. Of course, during the Thriller era, I think it would be a cool idea to have, Thriller era Michael Jackson even, you can even incorporate, Thriller era Michael Jackson as an objective character in NBA 2K. I think it would be a cool idea to have, Michael Jackson, just taking a stroll down the city in NBA 2K in one of his, iconic Grammy outfits. So I think that's and especially now, speaking of Thriller, the Thriller jacket, the famous iconic Thriller jacket, and all the jackets that he wore during the Thriller era, I think that would be a cool thing to have in 2K for other My players to wear, but also in general, I mean, eventually having Michael Jackson as a playable character, I think it would be a cool thing to see Michael Jackson, strolling down the street in the city on 2K in one of his famous outfits. And of course, the other eras also, like the Bad era, I think, especially in terms of fashion and style, the Bad era was extremely iconic for those reasons. The Bad era is known for the loafers and the socks and the pants and the slacks and the silver tour Bad tour outfit that Michael Jackson wore at many of his famous concerts from back in the day. So I think it would be a really cool thing to incorporate that fashion and that inspiration And of course, moving on even, of course, to other eras, the Dangerous era, which during that era, in Michael Jackson's Jam Music, iconic Jam Music video, he had Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was in Michael Jackson's Jam Music video, so I think it would be a good idea to incorporate, perhaps the outfit from Jam, or of course, the outfit from the iconic Black or White music video, with the armband, the famous armbands that Michael Jackson wore during the Dangerous era, the stringy hair and the hat, the fedora. I mean, I think it would be a really interesting idea to have Michael Jackson in NBA 2K as a playable character, both in terms of the fashion and the style and the music, of course, and just the overall inspiration of it. And I think same thing with the music t-shirt store. Having Michael Jackson as a playable character in 2K would just uplift the entire experience of 2K now, because now you not only have the dances in the animation store, but you have a music t-shirt store, which are extremely are popular, pieces, fashion pieces anyway for NBA players. And especially in terms of Michael Jackson now, what is fashion, what is style, So I think it would be a really cool and interesting idea to have, to be able to wear those music t-shirts and also the Thriller jacket, and to be able to wear the glitter socks or the glove, the iconic Michael Jackson glove, of course, that he wore during live performances. So I think that would be an overall interesting thing that would uplift, an interesting idea that would uplift the entirety of 2K as an experience. Again, as I was saying, about the eras, of course, you can even have, of course, in terms of eras now, the history era of Michael Jackson. I think it would be a good idea to incorporate, that gold outfit that he wore on his famous history tour, world tour. So I think that would be a good idea to have also in NBA 2K, with the helmet and everything. So I think that, incorporating Michael Jackson again, and there are multiple ways in which you could do this, but of course leading up to eventually being able to play as Michael Jackson as a playable character. And now here's another idea, of course, in terms of having Michael Jackson. Here are other ideas in terms of being able to play Michael Jackson as a playable character in NBA 2K. I think it really is a doable idea. At some point in 2K, it would just be cool to, again, as I was explaining, in terms of not just in terms of the animation store, the fashion, but it would be a cool thing to be able to now go into the city, right, and be able to play against Michael Jackson as a playable character in NBA 2K. To me, that would uplift the entirety of the experience. It would even, again, it would work in terms of 2K's incorporation or intertwining of different aspects, different cultural, pop culture aspects of in the fashion pieces and the music aspect also, It would just fit into the whole idea of 2K being this very interactive and fun and popular video game. And who better than the King of Pop, the iconic King of Pop, Michael Jackson, to help enhance that experience for users, and even, like I said, just beyond the fun of the animation store, which is already again, one of my absolute favorite aspects of playing NBA 2K, going to the animation store and being able to choose and equip these different post-game and pre-game celebrations. And of course, Michael Jackson, the Michael Jackson dances, the zombie dance, the floor glide, the what they call it, the Zen, the kick. They even do the kick and the chest pop. That's my favorite one in the video game. So I think in 2K, so that's one of my favorite. The Michael Jackson dances are my absolute favorite celebrations. I mean, it's just, and a lot of users, a lot of my players use the Michael Jackson celebrations. And of course they do, because it's Michael Jackson. It's just something that is so fun, and it makes the video game so interactive. And so that brings me to my last and my final points. I just want to say that, there's a doable and workable way in which Michael Jackson can be incorporated, as I was saying, not just in terms of the fashion and the music, but he can be incorporated into the video game as a playable character. Earlier I mentioned in terms of, especially Thriller era Michael Jackson, he can use as an objective piece. I think it would be a cool thing, for example, to walk up to Michael Jackson as a character in NBA 2K and have him, maybe point you, to the animation store where you can equip his different animations, his pregame and his postgame dances, the moonwalk, you can do the moonwalk dance, of course, after you hit a jump shot in NBA 2K, after you hit a three-pointer, your mic player does the moonwalk. So I think, or he does the moonwalk, and he does the floor glide So I think it would be a cool idea to even have Michael Jackson maybe as an objective piece in that sense. And then of course, it would be a good idea to incorporate all of his other eras, and I've even, I've come up with this plan on even how, and how 2K could do this, for example, I think it would be a good idea, how on 2K this year, you couldn't just go into the city, it started out, for example, with you starting out at rookie, there are these different levels to 2K. There's rookie, there's pro, there's all-star, there's superstar, and then there's elite, and then there's also the legend. So on NBA 2K video game. So I think, so of course starting out, for example, on 2K21 Next Gen this year, before you could enter into the city, you had to start out in this cage. You had to play a couple of park games, and then you moved up from rookie 1 to rookie 2, and then you moved on. Then you got to go into the city after you played, a few park games, and then they let you into the city, and then you could join an affiliation, which is what happened on NBA 2K21 Next Gen this year. So before you could enter the city, you had to play these park games. So I think what would be a good idea for 2K to do, and which to me is a really fun and interesting idea, it would be a really good idea. What if 1 year, what if Michael Jackson was a playable character in NBA 2K? What if you could play, for example, in the city, what if you had to play the Jackson 5 in a 5 versus 5 in order to enter into the city on 2K? What if you had to play, of course, what if you played Michael Jackson one-on-one, in all of his eras? What if you had to play Michael Jackson one-on-one in order to enter into the city? So I think that would be a good idea, at least to start with, that would be a good idea to start with in order to incorporate Michael Jackson as a playable character. I mean, imagine, clicking on the city, and especially for even a new, whether you're a new 2K user or an old 2K player, like myself, I've been playing 2K for years, and I love the NBA, I love basketball, as I said in the beginning. But I also love Michael Jackson, and I think it would be a cool idea to incorporate Michael Jackson in that regard, in that aspect in the video game, and that's just one of the number of ways in which, you could do that. And speaking of, his multiple eras, again, going back to that, not just now in terms of fashion, but there is a way to incorporate Michael Jackson and all of his eras into 2K as a playable character. You can even create, rules and restrictions around the character. There can, for example, there can be certain times when you play with him as a character, and there can be certain times when you cannot play with the Michael Jackson character, where he can just be used as an objective piece, where he can be walking around the city, or, where you have to play him one-on-one in order to enter into the city. And now we get into, bigger and broader ideas of how we can incorporate Michael Jackson into the city, and all of his eras. For example, let's say now you make it into the city. What if now Michael Jackson is a playable character in NBA 2K? What if you can play a one-on-one versus, Thriller era Michael Jackson with his iconic, Thriller jacket on, the whole outfit from the iconic music video Thriller. And I think that would be just an interesting and fun and extremely interactive idea that would just enhance the entirety, of course, the entire culture of 2K as a video game. Imagine being able to play against Rock With You, off the wall era Michael Jackson, where he's got on his, iconic, disco outfit from Rock With You. So I think that would be, or his famous tuxedo from his live performances. I think that would be just an extremely, beneficial idea to all the my players, all the 2K lovers out there, and the music lovers, of course, for basketball lovers and music lovers alike. I think it would be a really cool idea to just incorporate such an idea, such as, incorporating Michael, an iconic figure such as Michael Jackson into 2K as a video game. The style and the inspiration of Michael Jackson should be further incorporated into NBA 2K, and what better way to do that even than to, go ahead and even place Michael Jackson as a playable character in NBA 2K. So I think, for example, going back to the rules and restrictions and even the era thing, there's a way now, there's a whole breakdown to this. I think it would be a good idea, for example, to be able to play with the different eras of Michael Jackson in NBA 2K and at different times, throughout the day, how, if you play 2K in the morning, and it fits right into, the whole scope of the, the realism of NBA 2K, and now it's now a city now, right, for next gen users on the PS5. So I think it would be a really cool and interactive idea to have Michael Jackson at some point in such a video game as NBA 2K as a playable character. So I think it would be a really good idea to incorporate his fashion sense, the music, and also the playable character. You can put that all into one. You know, by really like a, you know, by just going ahead and really thinking this through. And as I was saying, you know, 2K, of course, it's something that 2K and Visual Concepts, you know, would have to come up with to create the likeness of Michael Jackson throughout his different eras, of course. And to create, you know, and to really create Michael Jackson for the 2K video game as a playable character. And back to my breakdown of the eras and the rules and restrictions. Like, for example, you know, my first idea, of course, was to, you know, maybe you could play the Jackson 5 in a 5 versus 5 in order to enter the city. That would be a really fun and cool and interactive thing. Or you can play, you know, against Michael Jackson, you know, one-on-one and through all of his eras in order to get through the city. And of course, Thriller era Michael Jackson, you know, could be, you know, difficulty level could be, you know, on 100. You know, his, you know, we can put all of his badges on Hall of Fame, you know, and make him this extremely, unbeatable figure, you know. Of course, you know, and it would make the game competitive and really fun and interesting. Of course, you know, at the end of it all, it would make it extremely interactive. So moving on to that, you know, there are other ideas also. You know, it would just, to me, it would just be a fun idea to be able to play against, you know, off the wall areas, or even play as Michael Jackson. You know, like you don't have to always play against him as your my player, but you can switch off now between your my player and Michael Jackson's character. You know, and it would just be a fun and a totally interactive, cool idea now. Because as I was saying earlier, you know, they already have Michael Jackson's inspiration in the animation store, you know, in terms of dances. And one thing that I appreciate too about the animation store and the dance packages in the animation store is just how vivid and how detail oriented the dances are. I mean, the package is called King, you know, it's called Soda, you know, like a soda pop, the King of Pop, you know. So it's a thing where they're really honoring Michael Jackson in a really unique and interesting way. 2K video game is really, you know, showing love to Michael Jackson in a way. So I think that, you know, what better way to show love to him more than to go ahead and put him as a playable character. And of course, you know, some of my other ideas include, you know, I think it would be a good idea to, you know, to be able to play, you know, Michael Jackson, play against him or play as Michael Jackson, switch off between your my player and Michael Jackson's character, you know, throughout his different eras. You know, for example, you know, and I think you should be able to, you know, walk around the city as Michael Jackson, you know, during different times. You know, like for example, I think even, you know, the Wiz, you know, late 70s, you know, Michael Jackson, you know, it would be a good idea to walk around, you know, the Wiz era Michael Jackson, walk around the city as his character. Even, you know, in terms of Jackson 5, you know. So I think it would be a good idea to be able to walk around as the Wiz era Michael Jackson, you know, from, let's say, you know, like, you know, for you know, during a certain time of the day, you know, you can walk around as off the wall area MJ, you know, for example, from, you know, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then you switch off between off the wall era MJ and the Wiz era MJ, you know, you can switch between those two characters. So you'd be able to play as the Wiz era Michael Jackson, you know. And of course, you can put, you know, Michael Jackson in one of his iconic, you know, outfits. You know, you can straight up put Michael Jackson in a suit, you know, in his bell bottom. So I think that would be a really interesting idea, you know, to incorporate Michael Jackson into the video game, into NBA 2K. As I said, you know, and this brings me to my rules and my restrictions idea also. And the rules and restrictions thing is just to say, you know, it's just a more realistic way of incorporating Michael Jackson as a playable character, and I think it would be a cool thing to be able to switch off between, you know, your my player and Michael Jackson's character, and also play against Michael Jackson in the park. So I think it would just be a cool thing, you know. And of course, 2K now, you know, especially with the incorporation of, you know, with the neighborhood turning into the city now, you know, they have this. The city has, you know, these a ton of different courts around the city now. You know, they have the 3 versus 3 course, of course. They have the 2 versus 2, and they also have those 1 versus 1 courts that you can go to. They also have the Gatorade rental courts now that you can go, you know, you can go ahead and play 1 versus 1 if you want to. So I think that, you know, a really good idea would be able to, you know, take your my player and even choose if you want to play against Michael Jackson in a 1 versus 1. You know, you can even run with your squad. You can play against, you know, you can play a 3 versus 3. And this goes back to even using Michael Jackson as an objective character now. I think it would be a good idea to use him, you know, as an objective. You know, maybe perhaps, you know, Of course, Michael Jordan and Michael Jackson, they had a connection. Michael Jordan was in Michael Jackson's, Iconic Jam music video. I think it would be a good idea if, one of the objectives was to play, if you had to go play Michael Jackson, it could be any era Michael Jackson, it could be Danger era Michael Jackson, or it could be Thriller era Michael Jackson. But at any rate, it would be a good idea to be able to play, for example, Michael Jordan, and you have to defeat Michael Jackson and Michael Jordan in 2 versus 2. And it could be you and another NBA player, or it could be you're my player and another squad mate. So I think that 2K could really do a really fun and interactive thing with the Michael Jackson idea. I think that 2K could really truly work around that in terms of creating his character, even the likeness and the way that he looks, his style, and his inspiration. I think that 2K and Visual Concepts could really come up with something unique where they could create Michael Jackson as a playable character in NBA 2K. Now, back to my rules and restrictions breakdown also. With that being said, again, this is just another realistic way of incorporating Michael Jackson as a playable character. So, for example, you can play with off-the-wall era MJ, let's say from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., in the morning, and then you switch off to the Wiz era Michael Jackson from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. or even 12 o'clock noon, and then you switch off between, the Wiz era Michael Jackson to Thriller era MJ, to Thriller era Michael Jackson from 12 o'clock noon all the way to 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and then so on and so forth, and of course and so on and so forth. 2 p.m. to, let's say, 5 p.m. you can play with Dangerous era Michael Jackson. From 5 p.m. all the way to 7 p.m. you play with his era Michael Jackson. And of course 7 p.m. all the way to 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. you can play with Bad era Michael Jackson, which is of course I consider Bad era my favorite era Michael Jackson, by the way. But at any rate, it would be just a really cool and fun experience to be able to switch off between those characters. And again, the times that the times and the rules and restrictions there are just a more realistic way of incorporating Michael Jackson into the game and as a playable character. And again, what I mean by the rules and restrictions is just there could be certain times and where you switch off, where you're able to play with this character. And of course, you don't have to choose a character. You can still switch off between your my player and Michael Jackson character, but just being able to have the option of playing with Michael Jackson character or against his character at some point in NBA 2K is just a really exciting experience that would definitely uplift the entirety of the video game, the entire culture of NBA 2K. So again, in terms of the eras and the point of the different eras and the times and restriction thing also would be. In terms of that, you can incorporate then even the fashion aspects, Like I said, you can have off-the-wall era MJ walking around in his famous, the disco outfit from the Rock With You video. You can have Thriller era Michael Jackson as as an objective character. You can play against him. You can play against Thriller era Michael Jackson. You can, try to run a one-on-one against Michael Jackson or 2 versus 2 or 3 versus 3 against Michael Jackson, and your squad mates, To be honest, you can even have Michael Jackson step on the spot against, and play and run with, another my player against your my player in your squad. So just have that, just being able to have him step on the, that's another idea, just being able to have him walk around the city and being able to randomly step on the spot and play a game against, a squad or your squad or, other my players and with other my players. Michael Jackson might be on your team now when you play, when you get ready to play a game. So that would be a really cool thing to have in the video game. So I think, and going back to the different eras now, I think it would be cool to be able to play against, Thriller era Michael Jackson and even, run on a Thriller-inspired court in the city. Like as I was saying, there are so many different courts now in 2K and in the city where, where you are running, on the course you're running on the affiliation course, but there are a ton of different courts, and I think it would be a good idea to, be able to have a Thriller-inspired, Vincent Price, movie theater-inspired Thriller court, There could, you can have the werewolf even, with a moon design on the court or something, It could be a red and black court, with the Thriller, the Thriller colors on it, So I think, of course, that that iconic bright red from Michael Jackson Thriller video. So I think that would be a cool thing to incorporate in NBA 2K. Bad era MJ, for example, I think it would be a good idea to have an objective character in a smooth criminal outfit, with the hat and the baby blue and the white suit on. He could, of course, before he talks to you, he can do the the grabby lean, he can do the kick, he can kick his leg and he can sing to you. So I think that would be a really cool thing to have in NBA 2K. And in terms of Batter MJ now, even not just in terms of the fashion, but of course he can walk around in that iconic, silver tour outfit that he wore at, in many of his famous and popular concerts back in the 80s. During his famous Wembley Stadium concert, I think it would be cool to have that outfit, for example. They have that silver, that slick silver long sleeve shirt with the black suede leather pants, black suede / leather pants, also the loafers and the socks. So I think it would just be a really cool idea to have that as a character. And of course, Batter MJ now, you could even incorporate, Bubbles the chimpanzee. That was Michael Jackson's famous pet chimp, famous monkey. So I think it would be a cool thing to have Bubbles in a video game where, for example, let's say, some days you walk up to Michael Jackson, the character, and you want to play a 1 versus 1. I think it would be a good idea to be able to play a 1 versus 1 or 2 versus 2 or 3 versus 2 versus Michael Jackson and Bubbles in the subway station, a bad-inspired subway station. They do have the subway station in NBA 2K, so I think it would be a good idea to be able to play against Michael Jackson or even with Michael Jackson on your team. But mainly even against him because, it would have the competition of it also. So I think it would be a good idea, basically, to be able to play against Michael Jackson in a bad, subway station, in the subway station on 2K. So, and of course the bad, Michael Jackson's iconic music video, the Bad music video, was set in a subway station. So I think it would be a cool idea to have that idea, to be able to play against him in the subway station. Dangerous era MJ, you can have him, of course, the iconic outfits from that era, the black or white video from, the yellow Egyptian outfit, the famous iconic Egyptian, outfit garments that he was wearing, his, famous Remember the Time video, Remember the Time. So I think that would be a really interesting outfit and a really interesting thing to do. So I think that would, and of course, you have basketball in that era, with Michael Jordan being in the Jam music video. So I think it would be cool to have Dangerous era MJ with, with that, maybe that red button up on with the black slacks and the shoes and the socks and the stringy hair. So I think Dangerous era MJ would be a really fun thing for 2K to do, a very fun and interactive thing. And of course, moving on to other eras, in the history era, and as I mentioned earlier, especially because of, the inspirational songs that was, and of course, all of Michael Jackson's music is inspirational and extremely fun and exciting. And iconic and inspirational again, and influential. So I think, but again, even especially during the history era, you have songs like Earth Song and Stranger in Moscow and Will You Be There, those type of songs that really, Will You Be There, was on Dangerous, during the Dangerous album era. But at any rate, though, you do have those songs during the history era, leading up to the history era now too, and also during Dangerous as well, like Black or White, those type of songs, Black or White, and even during Bad, Man in the Mirror, Thriller, of course, Human Nature, So all of Michael Jackson's, all those wonderful songs that he made and that he wrote and recorded on his own, So I think it would be a really cool thing to be able to just to play as his character, and also, it goes into it goes back to the idea of the music playlist. I think it would be a really good idea to have Michael Jackson music at some point on 2K Beats, and also, while you're playing against Michael Jackson as a playable character. So I think all in all, just having Michael Jackson as a playable character in NBA 2K would just be an interesting and overall exciting idea. I mean, even in the sense of a tribute, kind of, which is what 2K does anyway with the animation store, with the Michael Jackson dance packages in the animation store. So I think, that would just be a really good idea, to be able to play as all of the different, play as either all of the different eras or play against all the different eras of Michael Jackson. And just seeing Michael Jackson, as a playable character walking around the city, either as an objective character or, if he's getting ready to step on a spot, and play against you. So, I mean, again, imagine being able to play against Michael Jackson now in NBA 2K. And it could be Batter MJ, it could be Thriller Michael Jackson, Dangerous Black or White era MJ. I mean, yeah, with the stringy hair and the hat. I mean, it would just be an overall interesting and interactive idea. And of course, it being Michael Jackson, the king of pop, it's iconic and influential and inspirational as his style and his influence is inspirational as he is as an artist, as a pop culture figure, his style and his fashion sense. I think that would really be fun interactive thing for 2K players, for my players. And it would be a fun thing for the basketball world to kind of incorporate into their video game, which is a very popular and uplifting and influential and cool video game, very interactive video game, which intertwines all these different aspects. And again, going back to the idea now, the realism of now being able to play, as Michael Jackson, the playable character, having Michael Jackson as a playable character in NBA 2K, I think that it would be a really cool idea to have these different time frames now. Again, I think I was on the Battery MJ. You play with him from 7 to 10 p.m. or something. And I think after 10 p.m. all the way to midnight, it would be a cool idea to even then you could be able to use them interchangeably. And then there could be hours too, there could be down hours, from maybe midnight or even after midnight, maybe from midnight to 2 a.m. You can play with Thriller only Michael Jackson, which again would be an experience. What an experience that would be in itself, to be able to play against, or play with Michael Jackson's playable character in NBA 2K or against him, Thriller MJ in that iconic Thriller outfit, again, you can put all of his badges on Hall of Fame. I mean, how cool would that be to be able to play against Thriller and Michael Jackson? So I think, and again, so on and so forth with the rules and restrictions. After 2 a.m., then maybe, there's a thing between, 2 a.m. all the way to 6 a.m., where, you can where of course there's like downtimes or whatever. Maybe you can use them interchangeably, even, the different eras. So I think it would just be a cool and fun thing to be able to do on NBA 2K. And after saying all that, again, that's just to say, to me now, I do think especially after seeing all the animations and the dances and just the way that 2K already incorporates Michael Jackson into the video game, putting Michael Jackson in NBA 2K would be just an overall really good experience. And that could be NBA 2K 22. Of course, NBA 2K 22 now, as the video game comes out today, it's already out. So 2K 22 is already finished. But I think also, that's, with that being said, it would also be a good idea if they could, they could even do it, create Michael Jackson, 2K and Visual Concepts could create Michael Jackson's likeness, even as a special, like a holiday special thing, they could do it, they could run a special announcement, it's something that is definitely doable as I was explaining. With and of course there's just a number of ideas that that could arise out of this, so it's something that I think would be just a really grand and big idea and a big project that 2K could take on at some point. And again, back to that, of course 2K22 has come out already, but of course the holidays are just around the corner. Thanksgiving in November, and then you have Christmas in December. I mean, just what if, and of course 2K, they're always coming out with especially for NBA 2K, they're always coming up with different, the creative masterminds behind NBA 2K, they're always coming up with new updates to the game and all that. So I think, one of these days it would just be a really cool idea and a really interesting project to even as a special announcement type thing, what if, to have 2K announce, hey, we're going to, we have a special announcement for, for the NBA 2K community, we now have Michael Jackson, the playable character in NBA 2K. So I mean, imagine if that just happened, one day, and maybe you could even play with them, for a stretch, for a short period of time from Thanksgiving to Christmas, during one of these NBA 2K video games. And with that being said, that could be in terms of NBA 2K22, NBA 2K23, but just NBA 2K in general, in the near future and soon even, I think it would be a really, really great idea for 2K to consider, putting Michael Jackson in their video game as a playable character. Also, I think at some point it would also be a good idea, again, to turn to that music T-shirt store, and putting Michael Jackson music on 2K Beats at some point at the very least. Also would be a really, really good idea for NBA 2K to consider. It would be a good idea to just incorporate Michael Jackson all in all, incorporate more of his inspiration in which involves style and of course music, the music aspect. So I think it would just be a really good idea to incorporate more of Michael Jackson in NBA 2K for the overall enhancement of the video game, the entire culture of it would just fit right into having Michael Jackson as a playable character in NBA 2K. So I think that would just be, in either NBA 2K22, NBA 2K23, NBA 2K in general. Yeah, so I think it would just be, so yes, I think it would be a really good idea at some point to just have, eventually soon, to have Michael Jackson as a playable character in NBA 2K. And as I explained, there's a whole breakdown. And again, as I said, there's a different, there are a number of different ways you can, you can incorporate this. And 2K, as I said earlier, has already done a really great job of incorporating Michael Jackson into 2K. So that is basically what my idea is. And, and as I said in the beginning, I love Michael Jackson. I am a huge fan of his music. I respect and admire his legacy, the entirety of his career, the entire inspiration of it, from his music to his live performance. It's just something that has been an inspiration to me personally, and of course to many around the world. Michael Jackson, the light of his legacy will continue to shine on, and I think through multiple efforts, such as 2K and their animation store and their 2K soundtrack, and the way that they possibly could incorporate more of Michael Jackson's, life and his career into in the inspiration of Michael Jackson, the fashion and the style of MJ, the inspiration in that aspect, especially, is something that is extremely important to the overall culture, especially today's culture. Again, Michael Jackson's legacy and the inspiration of Michael Jackson is something, the influence of him is something that will continue on and will last legacies, will last generations upon generations. So I think a fun thing like putting him in a video game would really just cap off, would be the icing on top of the cake, if you will. And so that pretty much concludes my video. Of course, I just want to say again, it would just be a really interesting and fun idea to put Michael Jackson in this video game. And with that being said, YouTube, of course, being a huge fan of Michael Jackson, I'm going to leave you with my top 5 favorite Michael Jackson songs. Okay? So my number 1 favorite Michael Jackson song is Man in the Mirror. My number 2 favorite song is Wanna Be Starting Something. And I'm going to say Wanna Be Starting Something / Billie Jean, because I also love Billie Jean. It was the very first music video. That is a fun fact, by the way. That was the very first music video of Michael Jackson that I ever saw. It was Billie Jean. 3, I like the Jackson 5 classic, I Wanna Be Where You Are. I love that song. That is my favorite Jackson 5 era Michael Jackson song. My number 4 favorite song is Blood on the Dance Floor. I love the song Blood on the Dance Floor. I also like the music video. I love the short film Blood on the Dance Floor. And then, of course, last but not least, I also like, I love This Place Hotel. And it just, the genius of that song is just, of course, Michael Jackson being the musical icon, musical genius that he is. This Place Hotel is a really, really cool and unique